Hello. A butt kicking in Salt Lake City, was it not? Took a little bit for it to get going. Second period. Hey, what do you know? They can score in the second period. Three today. Dominant second period. Really, I think this is one of the more complete games, if not the most complete game they've played. Then that includes getting stops from the defense, getting contributions up and down the lineup, special teams. I thought it was pretty good. 4-on-4 looked pretty good, even though they gave up the goal on it. Yeah, what are you going to do? I know there's a lot of complaining about the ice. What are you going to do? But the thing that impressed me in this game beyond anything was the way that this team was able to take a first period that could have gone one of two ways or could have continued on, but that first period, the Golden Knights did a lot of things right. They put themselves in position to do the right thing over and over and over again, and it just wasn't breaking for them. It's not like it was breaking against them, like it was a bad period or what bad things were happening or anything of that sort, but it just wasn't necessarily paying off for them. The great gaps, the excellent puck support, the physicality that they brought into to a good portion of that game, winning stick battles, very good along the wall, good at finding their exits. Basically everything you ask for in that first period was there. And it's 0-0 against a team that's struggling, team that hasn't won much at all recently. So what was nice to see was to continue moving forward with it, to continue playing that style, even though it isn't paying the dividends yet. They didn't open things up. They didn't try to get into a track meet. They didn't start making bad decisions or trying to do too much with the puck or anything of that sort. Everything kind of remained the same, and eventually it started to fall their way. They started to get the breaks. They started to get the power plays. Eichel got an opportunity on the back door that got him going. A lot of this stuff found its way into eventually the scoreboard. And from there, that's where we started to see what I have written down below, which is then you just started to see one team's professional veteran team who's been here, team who knows what to do when they get these situations and when the other team is trying to kind of up the intensity because probably, I guess, because of the Reinhart hit. I thought the hit might have been high. They don't call it. I thought Furlat had another terrible night. I'll get into that in a minute. Golden Knights were on the right side of that every single time, which is fortunate in this game. Don't think it would have mattered at all. I think the Golden Knights were just better. I think this was an opportunity to take another one of these teams. So the last time I did one of these was the Ducks game, and we talked about one of these teams taking that step and kind of becoming a challenger in this conference. I think this is another team that is trying to take that step and try to become a challenger in this conference. And I thought this was a great opportunity for the Golden Knights to kind of smack them back down a little bit. No Mark Stone, no William Karlsson, no Aiden Hill, and they still smack them around. They still show them look, we're deeper, we're more talented, we're more professional, we're more used to winning than you are. You're going to have to bring a lot more than you've brought in this game to get across the line against us or even get close. The Golden Knights were much better, just much, much better as this entire game went on. And like I said, I'm rolling my chair is stuck on the other chair. All right, there we go. I got two chair. I got a chair, whatever. So overall, this is what should kind of be the path for the Golden Knights. It's fundamentally sound hockey is going to eventually do enough because they have enough talent. Hurdle, I thought had an excellent game today and doesn't have anything to show for it. Was very good. 5-on-5, 4-on-4, basically the entire game. He was very good. And I thought he was the driving force of a line with Marner and Dorofeev. And that hasn't been the case as often this season. So to see him have that, to then eventually Eichel ends up breaking through, to then getting Bowman's been very good in the role that he's been in to this point. And I'll talk about Braden a little bit more as we move forward here. a lot of it started to go their way because they're playing the right way, and eventually the talent's going to win out. This team is very, very talented, even with some of the injuries that are forcing them out of the lineup. Goalie, thought he was good. Didn't think he was great. Didn't think he had to do with that much, partially because of the first topic, the one that I really want to get into, which is why I think the Golden Knights are in the position that they're in right now. They're starting to play much better. I'm starting to feel like we're seeing a lot more of like what this team can become. And then you put the pieces back in the lineup and it can go to another level even beyond this. But the way that they defend, when they're able to defend and when they are playing the way that they should be playing, it makes it very difficult for teams to get the kind of looks that they're trying to get, that they think are going to be good enough to score. And what happens, and today was a great example, started to happen towards the end of the second period, really, really, really started to happen as we got into the third, which is when the Golden Knights are compact and playing the way that they want to play, which is basically forcing you to make difficult entries. That's step one. They were excellent in that today. Gap control was, I think this might have been the best game in gap control they've had all season. There were very few free entries the entire game that Utah had, which that's a huge, huge start to playing good defense. Then, when the puck did get into the zone, when they were eventually getting some time in the offensive zone, Vegas was real good at staying tight. Yes, they were allowing some of these plays back out to the point, but there's always three guys in between. You're probably not going to get a shot through from there. Defenseman looks at it, understands that, and they start working it around. When they eventually try to get it into the more dangerous area, there's simply nowhere to go. Good sticks, bodies in the way, good positioning. It becomes very difficult. So, what usually the answer to that is, and it's something that Cassidy has been concerned with this team on the other end, and we may get to that down the road, hasn't been as much of a problem recently, but it's probably going to be the question that's going to determine this team's season. And that is, how can they break down teams in the offensive zone when the going gets tough, when some of the like free opportunities or cheaper opportunities, rush opportunities, power play opportunities, some of that stuff goes away. But in the defensive end, when they're able to do this, the way to break it down is you have to take odd angle, weird shots, take chances to get the puck to the front, to then win a second puck, to then have the opportunity to either get it right back on goal or move things around and catch the defense before they're set again. That did not happen basically at all against the Golden Knights today. And that's because teams tend to fall into this trap. It's a weird, and it's not like, it's not the old whatever trap, the left wing lock type thing. It's not that. It's more of like a psychological trap, right? It's, you realize we're not getting these great opportunities. So what happens is you start to think it's going to be really difficult for us to get the right chance that we're going to be able to score on even a goaltender that, I'm like, Akira's been good, but I don't think many teams come into games and think, uh-oh, Akira Schmid's in the goal, we're going to have to be perfect to score against them. They don't have that thought. But as you play against this defense, as there are more times where you have to deal with what they're doing, what eventually ends up happening is you start to think, we can't get there. So we have to take advantage of every time we get in the zone to get the perfect opportunity. And what ends up occurring is you never get the perfect opportunity, so you don't shoot as much, right? So you don't take those chances that you should be taking to break down a defense. And that's exactly what occurred in this game. I think it was like about a 15-minute stretch there where the shot clock showed, and I hate the name shot clock. It's not a clock. The shot counter on the screen. I don't know why we use shot clock. It's a dumb name. The shot counter on the screen said 19 for Utah. They had over and over possession in the offensive zone with time along the boards. This is fine. This is where the Golden Knights want to be. When the game is 3-1, no problem. We don't mind being in this spot, right? That's fine. They never got a shot on goal until like 6 minutes into the third period. It's like the last 5, 6, 7 minutes of the second, and then into the third. We came back out of timeout or out of the intermission, and they now had 18 shots on goal, right? So that's what occurs is they then believe we're not going to get a good chance. We have to make a perfect pass, a perfect play. If there's an okay look, we still need to pass this up because we have to get something better. And that's what occurred in this particular game was they started to believe it's never going to happen for us. And that's what the defense that this team plays when they play it well can do. Let's get on to the two things that I think everybody seems to want to talk to me about today, and that's Hutton and Bowman staying in the lineup. I don't know why we always have to do this, but I'll get to it. First, I'll tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. When winning has mattered, Golden Knights have won a couple in a row here. Three in a row now. Yep. And points in 5 straight and are starting to look like the team that they should be. Are starting to look like the team that's easily in the playoff picture as opposed to the one that had fallen out for a little while. Now I understand they're really never out by points percentage, whatever. Nobody likes loading up the standings and seeing the Golden Knights on the wrong side of the cut line. Everybody gets nervous when that happens. I get it. Okay, so let's start with Hutton. So is it only 2? No, it's 3. It's 3 wins in a row, isn't it? Oh, no, they did lose the one in Minnesota. You're right, Chris. I struggle. That one kind of felt like a win. I don't. Why did that feel like a win? It's 3 out of 4. You're right. New York game was good. Okay. Let's start with Hutton. So Hutton's in the lineup because Lazan got injured. Like Hutton's not in the lineup because they pulled Lazan. I've seen that. I don't know why some people think that. I don't know. But Lazan's injured. I don't know what happened. We don't have much information on it. He is injured. He was put on IR fairly quickly. It's not usually the case. So they had something going on before the Ranger game where they called up Lazinski. I'm assuming one of the centers was sick or something. I don't know. But the thought is maybe, well, we might need Lazinski. Bring him up. Lazan goes on IR. They didn't actually have to put Lazan on IR at that point, but they did to get the 23rd player. They actually had space for him, but they did it anyway. So him going on IR is not usually a good sign. Usually they wait. If they think a guy might come back fairly soon, they wait. So I think Lazan potentially could be out for a minute here because of how fast he got onto IR. Nonetheless, Hutton goes in. Hutton's now scored goals in 2 games in a row. I understand. Everybody looks at it the same way. When a guy scores goals in 2 games in a row, we get all excited. We think, wow, this might happen more. He might score 40 this season. No one actually thinks that about Ben Hutton. I don't think Ben Hutton thinks that about Ben Hutton. Either way, that's what we end up getting. Now, you have to understand the difference in the players, the difference in the style, the difference in the way that the coach looks at each individual player. I think there's a legitimate argument that Ben Hutton is better all around than Jeremy Lazan. I don't believe Bruce Cassidy thinks that. And the reason for that is that he's a bigger risk taker. He takes more risks. He tries to get into the play. He tries to do more with the puck. That is his style of game. He also makes a few more mistakes in his own end. Doesn't take as many penalties. That's for sure. I think that's a huge part of it. But Cassidy hasn't seemed to really have a problem with that. Really hasn't. So I think at the moment, Cassidy still feels like Lazan's better than Hutton. That can change. He's got time to make that change. Scoring goals will make that change. But I think you also see, like, there was the play, I forget which game it was. Man, I can't remember which game it was, but there was a play where Carlson they had a guy coming out of the box. Carlson kind of should have gone forward. He ends up coming back. Hutton sends it across. It was a end of power play type thing. They give up the goal. It's those types of plays that Cassidy doesn't like. And I know that's just one. It's a while ago. if you really dig into each individual element of their game, Lausanne is better along the walls. Lausanne has a stronger stick. Lausanne offers more physicality in their own end, which is something that they were looking for coming into this season. Lausanne takes a lot more penalties. I think Hutton's a much more offensive player. I think Hutton's a better puck mover than Lausanne is. But I think in the system that they're looking for, which is more defensive zone draws, you also see since Lausanne has gone out, they've actually had to try and switch it back and go back to Whitecloud and Hanifin because they trust that a little bit more in their own end than they did Hanifin and Hutton or Hanifin and Korzak, which would then be Hutton and Whiteclouds. They don't trust that as much in their own end. So they've actually had to shift the defense around a little bit. I don't think anyone's wrong sitting there saying, I think we're better off with Hutton in the lineup. I don't think you're wrong. I also think that it's not enough of a gap to say, this is what we have to be. This is what it has to be. Like, I understand he scored 2 goals. I get it. But the gap between Lausanne and Hutton, I think it's just different pieces of the game. And most of us, myself included at different times, lean more towards the offensive side of the game. If a guy is better offensively, if a guy doesn't take some of the physical penalties, we lean more that way. So we mostly all prefer Ben Hutton over Jeremy Lausanne. I don't think Cassidy views hockey the same way as we do. I know John Stevens doesn't. I think Lausanne's going to end up back in the lineup once he's healthy. Is it right? I don't know. Can Hutton push enough to make it hard? Yes, I think he can. I think he's starting to do that. I don't think it's ultimately going to matter, at least in like right away. Like he's going to get his chance back. Now, can Hutton do enough to make it so that when Lausanne makes mistakes the next time he comes back in, he takes the job back? Yes, I think he can. I don't believe he's done enough to that point. Now, on Bowman. So I've seen some things like, can we keep Bowman? Like, yes, Braden Bowman's not going anywhere at the moment. Like when you come up, you get 4 points in 5 games. You come up, you're placed in that position on the power play, on the tops in the top 6, immediately up on Eichel's wing. When you're placed in that position, and then you have 4 points in 5 games. There's an assist and a goal today, both at 5-on-5. You've got the 2 power play goals. Like he's not going anywhere at the moment. Mark Stone potentially is coming back fairly soon. I do think that that makes things a little bit tricky on where Bowman's going to fall because of the fact that Bowman's a right-handed player. He's right. He has right-handed. Marner's right-handed. Stone's right-handed. I don't think they want to play any of them on the left. Bowman would probably be the last one that goes on the left because it's already hard enough for him to be doing what he's doing in the league at this age and this amount of experience to this point. I don't think they're going to switch sides on him. So the right side basically has to be, if Bowman stays in the lineup, which I believe he will, even when Stone comes back, it's going to have to be Stone, Marner, Bowman, and Kolazar. Now, you can switch it, and I think there is an argument, at least as it's going right now. If you were to tell me Mark Stone's coming back tomorrow, I'm probably putting him on the 3rd line or next to Hurdle on the 2nd line. I would probably not even want to do that. I would probably go 3rd line where he would play with Howden, and then the decision would have to be made who's coming out. Smith, Saad, Reinhart, then the decisions, all right, who fits better on the 4th line with Sissons and Kolazar. If it's Saad coming out, then Reinhart stays there. Smith ends up on the 3rd line with Howden and Stone. If it's Reinhart that comes out, maybe Smith's better off on the 4th line and Saad stays there on the 3rd. Get a little bit more speed on that line with Stone. I think at the moment, it makes perfect sense to me to leave Bowman in the spot that he's on at 5-on-5. Now, today's really the most impactful he's been at 5-on-5. And if anyone listened to the podcast, I think I was a little bit harsh on him because he's been better in the last 2 games at 5-on-5 than he was in the first couple of games, 3 games that he played. Power play, he's doing the job. I think it's a very good power play. I think he's the forgotten man in many ways on the power play. He's taking advantage of it. Hell yeah. Keep doing that. Way to go. Like he's made the power play better. That is very, very good. At 5-on-5, I didn't see as much in the first 3 games as we've seen in the last 2 games. So now I'm starting to get more comfortable with it. And also, I think it's like the fact that I think his game's growing is usually not what happens. Usually you get the spike and then it starts to head the wrong way. That's not what's happening. This kid's good. I've been saying it for a while. I was saying it all summer. This kid's very good. How does it fit when he's not got Jack Eichel next to him driving the line? I don't know. We are probably going to end up figuring that out. I think we are going to have to end up figuring that out. Yeah, and then here you could put Stone with Carlson. The problem is we don't know when Carlson's going to come back, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be soon. From what I understand, it could be a minute. So yeah, we would love to see Stone with Carlson eventually, but it could be a bit. So we'll see. As for this one, Bowman on the second power play on the goal line, I don't think that that's necessarily going to make sense because of the fact that they don't have Jack Eichel on the second power play on the left-hand side there using his right stick. The second power play operates a little bit differently, and I don't think Bowman fits as well in that. I don't think he's not bad at it. I don't think he's bad. Like you could potentially have him in that unit, but I don't think he's going to have the impact that he will have. And I think you'll end up kind of more forgetting that he's even out there on that second power play because they are a little bit more shots from the high slot, a little bit more shoot, recover, get these opportunities. I don't think he's as good at that because he's not as good of a skater. I think he can be on that second power play. I just don't think the role is going to look anything like it. I don't think they're going to keep putting it down to him in the corner, and then he has to make the play like what Stone does. Stone's going to get his job right back. I don't think there's any debate on that. So we'll see what occurs there. The latest I've heard on Hill is not good. Friedman reported Christmas. I have heard worse. And potentially quite a bit worse. I've heard they're already wondering about the Olympics. I don't even know if he would have his Olympic spot anyway, but it's not sounding good on him. I like I said, I don't want to put an exact date on it because I don't think they put an exact date on it. Nonetheless, I do think that that's going to be a minute. So I guess my point is like Christmas was the target. I think there's a pretty high probability it's after Christmas, well into 2026. We'll have to see what occurs as we move on from here. The predictions of they're going to move on from Hill, I would be very surprised by that. Aiden Hill remains under a contract that is now 20 games old. They signed him for a 6-year contract. I do not expect them to give up on that because Kira Schmid's put in a nice 10-game stretch here or 11-game stretch here. We don't know what Carter Hart's even going to be. I think the plan remains and will for a while remain that Aiden Hill is the starting goalie of this team. I don't see that changing. I firmly believe that if Aiden Hill were here and in these games, he would have the same, if not better, record than Akira Schmid has. Like I think that's what would occur if he was playing. I think for the most part, I've said this 1,000 times. If the team is good in front of these goalies, they will be fine. The floor is highest on Aiden Hill. That's why he's the starter. That's why he has the contract that he has. What do you attribute not consistently finishing chances close to the net? That's supposed to be the forte for players like Hurdle. A little bit of it's just puck luck, I would say. Like they've had a number of these chances, and sometimes they fall off right onto Smith's stick, or other times they fall off onto Eichel's stick, and those guys get the monkey off their back with easy goals, both of them. Other times they don't. Hurdle has had a number of those goals in tight. I think long term, if you keep creating those chances, they will inevitably go. I don't think this team is elite at that. I don't think they're even above average at that, like finding those pucks in front and putting them into the net. I'd say they're better defensively than they are offensively at that. But I do think they have enough, and there have been enough chances that I would say like they've been a little bit on the wrong side of it to this point. I think long term that will get better. I did want to talk a little bit about Furlat because he's a complete fucking joke. That's the simplest way I can put it. Every single time I see the guy's name on the sheet, Who's reffing today? I see Furlat's name on the sheet. I know it's going to be a complete train wreck. And today it was complete and utter disaster. The guy was a joke. Like the call on Howden, I still don't even understand it. I don't like, I guess that one, the Golden Knights were on the wrong side of it. It's the first one I can think of. They were on the wrong, like he tripped him. And so now Howden falls. What's he like? Whatever. So that one's to me like the classic. This guy wants to be involved, so he got himself involved. The after whistle scrum thing that occurred where there's just 7 fights occurring all over the place. I don't understand how one team ends up with a power play after that, ends up being the Golden Knights. Then they try to fix it immediately with what looked like a fairly soft call on Bowman. I think maybe he did get him, so maybe that one is right. And then they blow the one that Eichel scores the goal. So if I mean, they showed Torini going a little bit crazy about it. For those who don't know what they were going crazy about, there was a boarding call or roughing. I don't know what they were going to end up calling it: boarding, roughing, cross-checking. Doesn't really make a difference. Barbashev got smoked into the wall. The puck is on a Utah stick at the point when this happens. Barbashev is on the ground. The ref is way out of there, nowhere near the play. He makes the call, probably correctly. It did look like it was a penalty. However, the puck is on a Utah stick. That's it. Play dead, game over. Instead, Utah shoots it towards the middle. Bowman grabs it, puts it off the boards to Eichel. Up we go down. It's a goal, 3-1. That's what they're pissed about. If you're going to call the penalty, which I'm assuming they probably didn't like in the first place, you have to stop the play right there. Goal comes off. It's now 2-1. Golden Knights have a power play. Maybe they score anyway, but that's just terrible officiating. And it's wild to me that the guy who completely ruined a team's season 7 years ago is still in the league ruining games night in and night out. Like, I just don't understand how the NHL watches this guy ref games and thinks he's not a complete disaster, because he is every single time. And it's even funny because I had a guy from Colorado, one of the reporters up in Colorado, tweeted like, "Oh, it's not only you guys that see this. There's always something when that guy's ref the game. He's terrible in all the games. And it's not just us that we hate him, and we do hate him, but the guy's, it's a complete joke. Ridiculous." Also, shout out to Utah for allowing the Golden Knights to be in their head, even off the ice. Apparently, a fan threw a flamingo on the ice after the game, and one of the employees said, "Don't ever do that again, or you won't be welcome here," which is hilarious because that's pretty much normal in most NHL stadiums. Not that big a deal. Not going to hurt anybody. No little flamingo's going to injure anybody. It's going to be okay. I think they even sell the flamingos at the Golden Knights stores. Like, relax, guys. It's going to be okay. No one's getting injured. It's going to be all right. So they're even in their heads on that. So that's hilarious. Either way, overall, like, we're starting to see the biggest piece of what's been occurring recently is the defense has been great. It was very good in against the Blues. It was very good in Minnesota. It was very good against New York. It was very good again tonight. As you see the defense, oh really? You can't even bring signs up there? Like, what are they doing? I mean, there's all sorts of goofy rules in Utah anyway. I don't live in Utah. I don't know the rules. I know that they have goofy rules up there. But what do they, come on, that's ridiculous. What a joke. Either way, defense is coming along. Defense has been very good. Now, it's easy for us to say the defense can be good, and now you're getting the goals from Howden. You got the goal from Theodore. You got the goal from Hanifin. You're starting to get defenseman goals, and it's like, all right, that's good. That's good. The defense can do the job, and we're getting offense. It's a lot easier to deal with when that's occurring as opposed to what it was for like the first 15 games where there were basically no defenseman goals. I'm still not sure which part of that was the outlier. I don't know. I would lean towards we can't expect a ton of defenseman goals moving forward, but we will see. As long as the defense plays the way that the defense is playing at the moment, they're going to be in just about every game. They're going to get to overtime more often than not if they're not winning the game. And you're going to end up with the record that they have, 10 wins, 10 losses, but like the third best points percentage in the entire NHL. That's the game. That's the way the NHL works. That's what you have to do. Now it completely changes in the playoffs, and we may get to that point and say, well, is it good enough? Is this going to be good enough? We'll get there. It's only November. We're not there yet. They're doing the job right now. Hasn't been a pretty last 20 games. Has been a lot prettier last 4 or 5 here, even with the losses that were in there to New York and to Minnesota. Like, it's been better. It's the defense is doing the job. Now, as we progress forward, we have seen that it's a lot harder to play this style of defense consistently throughout longer stretches and into the dog days of the season as it is now. And then in the postseason, does it mute the offense? Those are the bridges we're going to have to cross as we get through there. As for now, great to see Braden Bowman, a piece that the Golden Knights have been waiting for, someone who's a young player who can step in and make an impact. We're seeing that. That's a big part. That's very important. We're seeing the depth of the roster, the stars that are underneath the Carlsons and Stones making the impact to find a way to make their absences not as important. Akira Schmid's getting the job done to the best of his ability, which has been plenty good enough to this point. It's all going fairly well. The last 5 games have made it feel a lot different than what it felt like 2 weeks ago. That's a huge positive. Now, keep it going. I'm going to Anaheim technically for the football game on Sunday, but hey, there was a hockey game on Saturday, so I might as well go to that. I don't know if I'm going to do one of these afterwards. Guess it depends on what the game looks like. Probably more likely I'm not, because I got to get out of there and not do one of these, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe the game will be interesting. I will be there, but I don't know if I'm going to do one of these afterwards. We'll do a podcast in about a week from now, a little bit more than a week from now. We'll see how that goes. And then I don't know. That's all I got for tonight. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm for sponsoring all Periscopes this season. That's it. Good night.